Hello! So I'm going to start doing 1 minute long, shorter transit videos in between the really long videos just to keep people in the loop because I have thoughts, obviously, of all the time. I'm always looking at charts and thinking each day, okay, how does this apply? What is the most important stuff to know, etc. So anyways, let's get to it. I think, well, first of all, Mercury's retrograde, that's so much to talk about there. I think this is such a good check-in point because we have so much Virgo energy to be focused on our wellness, our physical wellness, our mental wellness, obviously during any time period, but especially during this time period, to revisit maybe techniques that we learned before for our self-wellness that we haven't explored in a while, going for checkups, whatever is necessary to be able to understand how to be well. And I'm realizing this is not going to be a minute, but that's fine. And I think besides that, I think also making sure that we're not overthinking, which of course, like, the key isn't to overthinking. The key is to breathe deep, meditate, go for walks, doing something to unite our mind and our body, doing yoga, something to unite our mind and our body to make sure that we're not moving faster than our what's the words here? This is very Mercury Retrograde too, is making sure you take a moment to really think through what you're trying to say, and try to find the words. Not moving, not, how do I put this? Not moving faster than you're thinking, or yeah, no, that's a pretty good way to put what I'm trying to say, is just take your time, basically, take your time. And again, take care of your wellness. That'll be really helpful during this time period for overthinking and anxiety and whatnot. A big key to not overthinking is doing the little things each day to be able to help that. So whatever works for you, everybody's different, but whatever your self-care plan is, this is a really good time to focus on that. And I think lastly, two things actually. So today's Sunday. Moon is in Capricorn, so I think for everybody, for today and for tomorrow, it's really good to not be too hard on yourself. And this kind of goes along with the overthinking too, because the overthinking oftentimes has to do with these kind of energies, what we're lacking, what we need to improve, how we need to grow or be better or fix or preserve or whatever. And that's perfectly fine. That's what those energies are for. But they can definitely pick apart and be I've had to be very mindful of this myself the last day and a half or so, because there's positive sides to these energies, and we'll get to that in a moment, but we can be very very hard on ourselves with these kind of energies, and being very demanding and very cold potentially to ourselves, and then of course to others, because if we're being cruel to ourselves, and that's gonna spill over. So we want to be mindful of that. And I think a big thing here is to have a bit more compassion for ourselves and others, make sure that we're being empathetic, and being okay with where we are. We're all, with these kind of retrogrades, we're all experiencing some kind of, my goal was to be here, or I wish I was there, or whatever. And the key is during this time to appreciate where we are, the progress that has happened, that we're maybe taking for granted, or we haven't even really thought of. So that's really important to keep in mind. And the positive side of these kind of energies is the ability to be grounded and practical. So that's the other side of it. It's not like, we want to be compassionate with ourselves always during every step of our journeys. But when I say that, I don't mean to give us a pass for the work that we do need to show up and do. And that work could be anything. I mean, literally, it could be professional enterprise, it could be work, but it could also be, again, as per like personal wellness. It could be reflecting on how our relationships are going, especially the Venus retrograde, and maybe different approaches or assumptions or beliefs. It's a good check-in point of what's working and what's not working. And again, this could go for everything in our lives, every single realm. So this is a good check point. I mean, for the next couple days, for today and tomorrow, sure, but also even, the next month, as we're experiencing so much earth energy. So again, the key to that is just to appreciate where we are, be good with ourselves emotionally, while still pushing ourselves to be better, do better, etc. But not in a negative way, as per our self-talk or whatnot. And lastly, Mars has gone into Libra. This definitely helps the overthinking stuff. Excuse me. There's a big focus on cooperation. Mars in Virgo, where we've been for the last 6 weeks, is much more of in a lot of ways, not to generalize, and that's just one energy of the whole panoply of energies. I don't know if panoply is the right word there, but anyways. But Mars in Virgo does tend to be a bit more solitary, majorly more solitary, and focus on, okay, what do I need to hone, what do I need to learn, what do I need to practice, etc., etc. What can I do on my own? Mars in Libra is very different. Like all the energies that are right next to each other, it's a major step forward in a different direction. And again, it's all a giant circle, so it's not like one is further along on the path of life than another. It's a giant circle. We end with Pisces, we start with Aries, but they all do have a momentum to it, and especially with the transits, they have this sense of a journey, a sense of a story unfolding. So the story now, as per our actions, is all about cooperation, collaboration, having somebody else there. We're holding hands in a way. As per our actions, we're working alongside other people, and this is good to keep in mind, but also it happens practically where we just find ourselves in this situation. So this is good to keep in mind, to embrace this kind of situation, and again, to not overthink it one way or the other, not picking apart the other person, not picking apart self. I think the challenge to keep in mind with this energy is to make sure that you're processing your anger in a healthy way. This energy can tend to... It's funny because like all energies, it has a spectrum. And it can tend to, on one side of the spectrum, bury anger for the sake of harmony, maybe laugh something off as a joke, even though it really upset you or whatnot. And to be fair, that can be really helpful. It can cool down situations instead of flaring them up. But at some point, anger is like fire in a lot of ways. You gotta do something with it. Otherwise, it's just gonna burn you. You don't want to hold on to it. But at the same time, you also don't want to be like throwing it around at people too. You don't want to burn people. So it's a little tricky, of course. So the key here is to just be mindful, as always, for all of us, is to be mindful of when do we say something, when do we let something go, if something's really bothering us, how do we approach it. Communication is going to be really key in being able to work through conflicts, helping the other person to understand where you're coming from, and trying to move forward together. That's going to be really helpful for letting go of things, and also to be able to address conflicts in a healthy way. And again, the key is something's got to give, because the other side of the spectrum is you hold on to that, and then all of a sudden it's funny because Mars in Libra, like, it can bury conflict, but then on the other hand, when the conflict, it's like Mars in Taurus in so many ways. They let so many things go, and that's great. But then certain things that they shouldn't be letting go, that they just need to like get out and say, hey, please don't do that, that upsets me, or hey, please don't say that, whatever, then it goes to the other side where they're different, Mars and Taurus and Libra, of how they do this, but they both then like can explode and then be too argumentative, too conflict prone, because it's like one extreme to the next. And the key for all energies is always to find that that middle path, that sweet spot in the middle where you're not doing too much of one thing and too little of another. Because Mars in Libra, if it's stuffed down, if you're not communicating, you're not seeking to let the other person know how you feel and where you're coming from when it's really important to you, and in order to be able to work together, then it can be very passive aggressive, it can be very argumentative verbally, not maybe quite as it's different from, say, Mars in Gemini, but again, Mars in Libra tends to go from one extreme to the next because of the nature of the energy. So just keeping that in mind, and if you find yourself being passive aggressive or communicating and talking behind somebody's back about something, and it's not in a venting capacity, okay, good check-in point. Okay, I gotta address this. I gotta talk about it. For the interest of peace and harmony, I'm gonna have to handle this conflict, and it doesn't count as handling it if we just bury it. So something to keep in mind, and that's going on for the next 6 weeks. Last, this started out as a short video. It's so funny. I am going to be doing short videos, like I was saying, to just kind of be a lot more focused on the moon energies. Like, oh, okay, moon's here, so for today and tomorrow, other stuff is going on, but anyways. Lastly, again, we have a lot of retrogrades going on, and this kind of goes back to the be gentle with yourself, be calm, be patient, because Venus is still retrograde for another week or so, and the post-shadow period will go for the rest of September. Basically reiterating what I said in my most recent transit video, but it's worth reiterating, especially since Mercury is retrograde. September, the rest of August, of course, too, and September is a time period of retrogrades and or post-shadow period for retrograde. So what does this mean? Delays. We don't control these things, even when we know, like, oh, this is that and this is that, we can embrace it and make the most of it. That's the whole point of astrology. But God knows, after over a decade of studying this, I've learned you cannot control these things. You just do your best. So I think that's good to keep in mind, is be patient. And what's nice is these energies help us to revisit past dynamics. We're going to focus a little bit more on Mercury with this, and then we'll sign off for today. But we can focus on things we haven't thought about for a while, we haven't been working on for a while, and move that forward. So for me, of course, finishing the editing of my book, certainly moving forward with that, that's a key thing. But for all of us, it could be friends we haven't seen in a while, communications that we haven't had that have been needed, whether we knew it or not. So anyways, I think that's good to keep in mind. September is a retrograde month in a lot of ways. Be patient, take your time. It's good to focus on these things that come up, even when we don't plan on them coming up, because they actually are key for us moving forward. So don't worry if you feel like you're going backwards, because in this way we're focused on the past, but we're actually, I always think of Mercury retrograde as like walking backwards into the future. We have to focus on the past to know where we're going. And sometimes you bump into things and it's frustrating and annoying, but embracing it always helps. And in a cool, weird way, we actually figure out better where we're going when we're doing that focus of focusing on the past. No, obviously we don't want to focus too much on the past. Sometimes we want to look forward, like, where am I going? But yeah, that's good to keep in mind. All right. As always, doing readings, info in the about section to book a reading with me. And I'm gonna do a separate video to mention this. Nah, not yet. Mercury retrograde. I got some other stuff I gotta do first. Never mind. All right. Infinite love to you, my friends. I can't do it while I'm holding the phone, but infinite love to you. Namaste. Peace.